Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to another episode of a Colts podcast brought to you by Fan Nation on SI.com. My name's Brandon, and I'm joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. Another week has gone by. We are in the third week of training camp, Andrew. You had quite a weekend. First time being an official media member, wearing that media tag. Absolutely incredible. We'll talk about that. But, sir, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. It was a blast to be down there in Westfield Sunday on the field. Got to speak to a lot of the local beat guys that I haven't seen in a long time. So that was good. But yeah, it's a different perspective when you're down there on the field watching practice. The speed is obviously a lot greater. You're able to see more in depth of what exactly they're working on. But it was a hot one. It was real hot out there. I mean, just standing there, just baking in the sun.
Yeah.
But hey, good times. Colts got after it this week in practice. 3 days full of pads, and now they're off tomorrow as they head to Buffalo to take on the Bills in the first preseason game of 2022. So we got a lot to talk about today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just dandy. It's cooled off a little here in Indiana. So I am not just sitting in my office during the day sweating. Hopefully the air conditioning is
yeah, did you get that fixed?
Dad had a busy week last week, wasn't able to help. So this weekend we got all the parts, got all the stuff. I'm hoping by the end of Tuesday before he has to go back to work next week, hoping we're done. So very excited about that. I just remember we're going to lay concrete. Oh boy. Get the shovels ready, boys. But anyway, Andrew, let's get to it. First, want to remind everybody, this is probably the last reminder we'll have, maybe next week. We're announcing winners next week.
We're announcing the winner next week.
Okay, so make sure to go check us out on I always forget to get this logo out of the way. A Colts podcast ticket giveaway. 2 tickets to the Colts versus the Lions preseason game, August 20th, 1 p.m. at Lucas Oil Stadium. Rules: like a Colts podcast on Facebook. Follow at a Colts podcast, at Andrew Moore NFL, and at BM Moses 9 on Twitter, and subscribe to a Colts podcast on YouTube. Don't have an account for any of those things? Well, then you can't win. So your decision now is to make an account, go do those things, and maybe win some tickets to the ankle biting Lions and Colts game. By the way, I thought about this the other day. I didn't say anything to you, but big announcement. The Colts are going to be on Hard Knocks.
Colts are going to be on Hard Knocks again as the Lions are coming for the joint practice.
It'll be the episode, not next Tuesday, but the following, episode 3. Colts are going to be on Hard Knocks again. Looking forward to that. Did you listen to Matt Ryan mic'd up?
Oh, yeah.
Way better than Jonathan Taylor mic'd up. Jonathan Taylor's mic'd up just him running and like panting. It was terrible.
Right.
Matt Ryan mic'd up way better. He was definitely aware that he was mic'd up, though.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Like he kept going.
For sure. And we'll get into Matt Ryan and what exactly that mic'd up, because honestly, it was a very, very cool clip and kind of shows exactly what Matt Ryan's been doing every week out there. But yeah, ticket giveaway is going to be announced next week. I think we're doing our show because we're actually next weekend going out up to Michigan for Brandon's bachelor party. It's his turn.
Yeah, Tuesday.
So next Tuesday, August 16th, that's when we're going to be announcing the winner for our ticket giveaway. So make sure you like a Colts podcast on Facebook, follow all the things on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube before the 16th, because I'll be picking a winner that morning. So it's easy. Why wouldn't you do it?
Why wouldn't you
try? There we go.
That's like old enough now that we can steal it back, right?
A little bit.
Somebody else's now. By the way, speaking of our beloved Pat McAfee, congrats to him, by the way. That's the second time I've used the applaud button in 2 weeks and hit the horn, but he's got this wonderful deal with Peyton Manning and Omaha Studio Productions, whatever they're called, for some stuff with ESPN2. Basically another Manning cast, but with Pat McAfee and the boys. And they got NFL game film rights.
That's insane.
So, there we are. There's Andrew. Yeah, they got game film rights, and they're going to be doing basically like they're going to use mic'd up audio and stuff too. So really looking forward to hearing about that. That's when they were talking to guys from NFL Studios today about Hard Knocks. So interesting stuff. If you haven't checked out that latest episode of Pat McAfee's show, our inspiration to begin a podcast.
No free ads, but free ads for Pat.
Free ads for Pat any day. Andrew chugged a beer with him. All right, let's move on. Colts training camp 2022 week 3 update. Andrew, let's get some general observations from camp. Here's my first general observation. I'll go first before you steal it. You always steal it. So the defense is kicking the snot out of the offense. My opinion. Coach Reich says, I think each side's getting their, this and that. No, the defense is just knocking the offense to shit. But I'm not too discouraged by that because I think we've got a really, really good defense, which is going to set our offense up to play really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think honestly, you can expect that at this early stage of camp. You can expect the defense to still be ahead of the offense to some extent. The Colts were in pads. I think they had 4 practices this week. The Colts were in pads for 3 of them. And it seems like when the pads go on, the defense does generally come out on top. There's this more physical practice. The guys are getting after it, keeping that tempo and that intensity up. And it just really shows. I don't think it's necessarily an indictment on the offense yet. Yeah. I do think the offense is going to start coming around here once we get towards the end of camp. But I think it just shows that this defense is for real. And the Colts are doing this without Shaquille Leonard there in the middle, who still is yet to practice this training camp. But the defense looks fast. They look aggressive. The additions of Yannick Ngakoue and Stephon Gilmore, I don't think I can just say enough about how much it's changed this defense. Not only it's just the pass rush looks quicker, there's less time for Matt Ryan to throw. Stephon Gilmore is blanketing every single receiver he's covering out there, and he's raising the level of play for that secondary to a whole nother level. Yep. But yeah, I would say I'm worried yet about the offense. They're still trying to get things going.
Yeah, I'm not worried a bit.
In my opinion, it signifies more. You should be happy that the defense is at this level right now, and the heart and soul of the defense isn't even in there currently.
Well, yeah, the heart, exactly. So it's crazy to think what they can end up being, but at the same time, the majority of that defensive unit has been playing together already. It's a new defensive system, so it is different, but they've all played together for the most part. Aside from Gilmore, who, one of the best vets you're going to see come to it, be lucky enough have to come to your team, and then Ngakoue, who's been in the league 3 years now, 3 years.
Ngakoue's been in the league 6.
No way already.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, another very good vet. So you expect those guys to be able to perform, especially when, for the most part, they've got one job. Lock one guy down or go get the quarterback. Whereas the offense with Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, 2 quarterbacks who are new to this football team. Yeah, and drops could be better. By the way, are we going to talk about the tight ends? We're going to talk about tight ends a little bit later, so I'll talk about it then. But in regards to the drops, I seem to remember a rookie wide receiver that was struggling during camp last year, and it seemed to work out all right for the Bengals. So I'm not too worried about the drops.
There has been some mental errors, and that's what Matt Ryan on Sunday when we were speaking to him, he said we need to clean it up, and I think we could transition into Matt Ryan now, just because of how he's been handling this whole thing. Matt Ryan, and if you watch the video that the Colts put out of him mic'd up, and then I can attest to this just standing on the sideline, because when you're on the sideline and as loud as Matt Ryan is, the command he has, you can hear pretty much everything he's barking out to the receivers and to his tight ends. Full command of this offense. We've said it, and I don't think we can hammer it home enough just how
how much this team, or how he's taken over this team, and in a
Yep.
good way. I mean, he goes out there and practice. All eyes are on him in the huddle, outside the huddle. Matt Ryan is what is driving this machine and this Colts team right now. He's consistently barking every single time they get out of the huddle. He's telling people to get set. It's just part of his cadence at this point. If somebody makes a mistake, he's immediately going up to that wide receiver, telling them how to run that route, or if whether they should cut it off, which way they should be going, when to cut that route, or when to make a certain break at a specific time, things like that. Just the little details. Matt Ryan is constantly on these guys, and I think it's great because of how young this wide receiver group is, and frankly the tight end group as well, because outside of Mo Alley Cox, you got rookies and a second year guy.
Yeah.
So it's good for him to be on them, and it's good for this offense to really go up tempo and have a sense of urgency about them
Yep.
in camp, because once the games start happening, I mean, the Colts have a gauntlet at the beginning of the schedule. So, and other teams aren't going to wait for them to catch up. They got to be ready come week
Right.
1.
Andrew should be a salesman, folks. The way he likes to phrase things as well. So Andrew sends me a message Sunday, interviewing Matt Ryan right now. Hilarious way to phrase something that was the literal version was, I got to sneak in a question during media availability after the Colts stopped recording to Matt Ryan. Andrew, what did you ask Matt Ryan, and what did Matt Ryan respond, so I don't have to go read an article?
You should always check out my pieces, Brandon.
I open your listen, I've seen your piece. I don't need to see any more of your piece. Just will you just tell me what I open them?
Let's get back on the horse.
I talked to you back on the horse. Come on, man.
So I talked to Matt Ryan, and I asked him, what does he think about these young position group, these young rookies on the offensive side of the ball? Guys like Alec Pierce, Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods. And he said the thing that's impressive about them is their attention to detail and how much they want to work. This isn't an immature group from any of those guys. These guys come in every single day and are trying to get better. And you've seen it. Alec Pierce, like I've said numerous times on this podcast, Alec Pierce looks like he belongs. He doesn't look like he's out of place. Drew Ogletree makes a play or two in practice every single day. Drew Ogletree is out there doing very impressive things for a 6th-round pick who played wide receiver for 4 years out of his 5 in college. This is really only his 2nd year as a tight end. And Jelani Woods is just a physical freak. Jelani Woods has had some issues with drops. Sometimes he has looked like a little bit confused out there, ran the wrong route at times. But again, he's also a rookie. He's learning. You're not going to kill a guy when he's making those types of mistakes. He still has all the physical features that could lead to a very high upside. So I'm not concerned about that yet. But it was encouraging to hear from Matt Ryan that it's not too big for these guys, and that they're just as locked in as the veterans are in this group. So I think these rookies are earning Matt Ryan's trust, not only with their play on the field, but just behind the scenes in the meeting rooms, acting like professional football players and proving that they are trying to make an impact on this team as quick as they can.
When you see him too, during that mic'd up video, I mean, he's also more than capable and willing to take the blame in situations that are on him. That's on me. That's on me. Which, by the way, the amount of times I heard "that's on me" felt a little alarming. But he's an encouraging leader.
And again, Andrew Luck said that every single time he stepped up to the mic. So it's what a franchise quarterback does.
Mic'd up and stepping up to a mic are a little different. But yes, I see your point.
Oh, yeah.
And I think even at one point, I think he thought something happened, and I wasn't watching like the screen at the time. I was just listening while I was doing stuff at the gym. But he thought some read was made, and I don't know if it was a running back or a receiver. They're like, no, like I saw it. He's like, oh no, don't listen to me. Don't listen to a word I just said. Then like you did the right thing. So I think it's important to be able to have that flexibility and
Right.
recognize when you're not always right.
Exactly. Good give and take. So that way he's not just barking out and thinking he's always right. He's communicating with his wide receivers, and he trusts them also to make the correct play. And if he does mess up, he's not going to be the one that blames everything. He's going to step up, and as the veteran leader that he is, he's going to take blame for that when he does make a mistake. So it's very refreshing to see.
Stats Matty Ice. Only thing out of the mic'd up was Ryan looked. Oh, only thing out of mic'd up Ryan looked bad at was running a corner route. That was hilarious.
It was.
Like, you got to do it here because I'm going to deliver the ball here. He got the point across.
Exactly. And I think Pittman went out and ran that corner route then to perfection, and Ryan put it right on the spot. So that's what camp is for. It's for Matt Ryan and to work with these wide receivers, get the timing down for them to practice where the ball's going to be on these routes. So that way, by the time week 1 comes down at Houston, they're clicking and they know exactly where the ball's going to be thrown on each specific route down the field.
All right. And excuse me. Sorry. Wide receivers. I'm going to start out with Ashton Doolin. Nick Foles talked to the media for what I believe is the first time as a Colt, maybe second, first time since training camp started. And I mean, he was just glowing about Ashton Doolin. I mean, he was hyped up when somebody asked a question about Ashton Doolin. It just seems week after week we keep talking about it, and I keep saying, I don't know. I think I wide receiver 4, maybe 3. You know how I feel about Paris Campbell still until it happens. You know, it hasn't happened yet. But Ashton Doolin seems to be a guy the Colts plan on relying on.
Nick Foles is very high on Ashton Doolin because Nick Foles is running the second team offense, and that's the group that Ashton Doolin's mainly been running with as the wide receiver 4. Because I mean, we know Pittman's 1, Paris Campbell is 2 right now, Alec Pierce is 3, and then there's Ashton Doolin, who's easily there's nobody even close to Ashton Doolin. He's the guy that's going to come in for those guys if somebody goes down, somebody needs a break.
Yeah.
Ashton Doolin is the first guy off the
4
bench.
wide receivers out.
4 wide receivers set. Ashton Doolin will be out there. Maybe we'll see some Drew Ogletree from what he's been doing. But yeah, Ashton Doolin has been nothing but impressive. He's taken that next step. I mean, I was talking about it with Jake and Zach on Locked On Colts podcast when I was down there in Westfield. Ashton Doolin, I think, is this team's next Zach Pascal. Now, does he going to take on a role as big as Zach Pascal? No, I don't think so. But Ashton Doolin he's a bigger guy at 6'2", and I think people forget that because of his speed.
Yeah,
you think, and he's a gunner on special teams.
Guy. Yeah.
You think of him as like maybe a 5'11", 6 foot guy that just is blazing speed. No, he's 6'2". He's one of the taller wide receivers. He's taller than Paris Campbell. He's taller than Kiki Cutie, DeMichael Harris.
Forgetting about Kiki Cutie.
Every
time somebody says his name, I'm like, oh my god, that guy's a Colt.
Ashton Doolin's only a little bit smaller than Alec Pierce, and Alec Pierce, you think of him as a tall, long dude. So Ashton Doolin, I think, because of his speed, because of his bigger nature, and his ability to block, he's going to find a role on this team. And I think he's been, outside of Pittman, probably the most consistent wide receiver on this team. Because if I'm being honest, this week was not a good week for the wide receivers. The pads went on, the defensive backs got more physical, and the wide receivers definitely felt it. Alec Pierce had not only that, just dealing with the physicality, but there were some drops. I mean, Pittman had a couple drops even. Alec Pierce had some drops. I think Paris Campbell had a drop, and then the tight ends as well, which we'll get to. But it was a rough week for the wide receivers because the physicality ramped up. We're not just in shells and shorts anymore. The defensive backs are trying to make life difficult on him, and it certainly showed this week.
I'm trying to think if nothing else stood out to me over the last week that I've seen or heard out of the ordinary in regards to the wide receivers.
I did think you were going to be right, because one of the days Paris Campbell had a little tightness in his hamstring.
Oh yeah, I did forget about.
But
I did. Yeah,
the last 2 days he's been fine. He's been out there. He would have been limited on Wednesday. Full
they just gave him a
participant.
day break, right?
They gave him a little bit of a break. Full participant today, and he was back out there making. He had a couple 15 to 20-yard catches right over the middle of the field with Matt Ryan. So, and I think that's going to be Paris Campbell's sweet spot this year.
It did sound like Matt Ryan intends to use Pittman's size in scoring situations.
Pittman, yes,
yeah. It sounded like Ryan wants to use Pittman's size in the red zone. Essentially, is the vibe I got for sure.
Pittman's been in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 work. Pittman has been receiving a good amount of targets in red zone work, which last year we saw a little bit with Carson Wentz, because Carson Wentz only threw it to Michael Pittman Jr., it seemed. But I think that's kind of the next step for Michael Pittman Jr. is to use that 6'4" height, his giant leaping ability, to become a big red zone threat.
Great question as we transition into the defense, Andrew, to tie wide receivers and defense together. StatsMatt asks, Andrew, do you think there's a difference in practice and physicality from Flus to Bradley or DB coach to DB coach that could be throwing off some of the older wide receivers? And older, but that by they mean, who's been practicing against this defense before, because this defense is a little more press. It's a little more physical at the line of scrimmage on those wide receivers. What do you think about that question from StatsMatt, Andrew?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think this defense in the secondary, the scheme they're running with Gus Bradley and the secondary coach Ron Miles, there's no more of the Matt Eberflus having guys 5 yards off to give the wide receivers a free release. Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Faison, even Kenny Moore. All these guys, a lot of times, are right up in press coverage to start. Doesn't mean they're going to be press man-to-man all over the field, but it starts out in that press coverage and then kind of floats to a man-match zone sometimes. With I've seen a lot of man-to-man with Stephon Gilmore, but yes, definitely they're pressing the wide receivers. They're making sure they get hands on them. And here's the thing: nothing is coming easy. How many times over the past 4 years did we see the free release off the line of scrimmage and it looked like it was just a simple pitch and catch and just dink and dunk down the field? While I do think there is still going to be some of that, because Gus Bradley does run a lot of zone, and it's not necessarily going to be press man sticky coverage all around the field. So there's going to be some holes, but the secondary is just so much more physical this year. And they've made that a priority within this scheme to not let the wide receivers get a lot of free releases off the line of scrimmage.
When I played the little bit of high school football I played, we played a cover two. We were jamming receivers right at the line of scrimmage, and to watch, I just think that's the way to go. I have not been a fan of our defensive scheme the last few years and giving wide receivers free releases. I've been pissing and moaning about it for 3 years on this show. So I'm glad that we've gone another direction in regards to that mentality. But Andrew, defense, let's talk about it. Standouts on the defense, I would say right now, the leadership out of Zaire Franklin, and he's been filling in for Darius, has been pretty outstanding. What do you think?
Zaire Franklin's out there chirping a lot, and I don't think the surprises, at least that doesn't surprise you and I, because we know that Zaire Franklin has been a captain on this team for the past couple seasons for special teams. He's coming in here while Darius or Shaquille Leonard is out, and
Kiefer did it yesterday too. Don't feel bad.
he's in there and he's leading this group, and it's not just Franklin. I mean, it's Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore isn't necessarily the rah leader, but so many of the defensive backs, I mean, Kenny Moore, Julian Blackman, they've both said that he just leads by example, and he comes in every day. He plays at such a high level, and he's showing these guys how they should practice, how hard they should practice every day, and to practice, not just practicing hard, but practicing at a high level as well. So, and it's without question, Stephon Gilmore on most days has been the best player on the field. And there was a lot of talk about, man, how is Stephon Gilmore really going to be? You could
Yeah.
see it in person. And I know you haven't had a chance to go down there to training camp yet, but just on the field, I mean, the guy first, while I was down there, first rep of one-on-ones, Gilmore versus Michael Pittman Jr. covered it perfectly. Pittman never had any separation whatsoever. Gilmore bats the ball away, makes a huge play. Yeah, he's been there before. Didn't celebrate, didn't anything, just walked back to the huddle, back where the defensive backs were standing. And he just does it over and over and over and over again. And it's routine now. So yeah, Stephon Gilmore has been the guy that has stood out to me. I mean, Yannick Ngakoue has been fantastic. DeForest Buckner has looked unblockable at times, but Gilmore's on another level. And I think he's going to be in consideration for Pro Bowl level, if not an all-pro team. That's how high I am on Gilmore from seeing what he's done in practice so far.
By the way, a few years ago, not a Gilmore fan.
Yeah.
Played for the wrong team.
He did play for New England, but he and the thing is, I think
been unbelievable. And every single defender, not even just DBs, have something great to say about the guy and how Julian Blackman was just saying, like, how did you know that's what they were going to do? Like, how are your instincts that good? It's not just instincts. It's Kenny Moore talked about his time with Stephon Gilmore. That guy watches film. That guy knows his shit. So just more than just his instinct goes into it, but he's an absolutely incredible corner.
Well, I think what plays a big factor in this too is he's healthy. I mean, last 2 seasons, his last year in New England and his 1.5 a year in Carolina, he was nursing some leg injuries. And that's you haven't seen him on the injury report once. He hasn't missed practice once. He hasn't even gone out and sat out. He's been a full participant every single practice. The guy is healthy. I don't see a drop off anywhere in the physical attributes of Stephon Gilmore. He's one of the smartest football players I think I've ever encountered on the Colts. And I think it's going to, when this keeps going throughout the season, there's going to be a lot of people thinking back. This is probably one of the best moves made all off season.
Well, and along with another guy that has shocked us is Yannick Ngakoue, which I feel like we talk about him every week, but I mean, just his presence on social media, he's already trying to make an impact in the community.
Close personal friend.
Yeah, Andrew follows Andrew on Twitter, and he's playing great football so far from everything we hear and see. I was really impressed by his chat with the media the other day. They asked him, like, why are you being so outspoken online? Like, what has motivated you to, like, 'cause this isn't what you were doing in other places. What's different here? And he said, I don't know. I got here and it felt like home. And he said, I want to come make a positive. I can't remember exactly how he worded it. I watched it, a few days ago, but
he wants Indiana to be his home. He wants to retire here. Is what he was saying, and
which would be wild because he's been one and done the last 2 teams he's been on. Wasn't he somewhere between the Jags and the Raiders?
Oh, he was with 2 teams between that. So he went. Okay. He was from the Jags, got traded.
He went to the Vikings.
Got traded to the Vikings. Vikings then traded him to the Ravens. Didn't work out there.
That's right.
He signed with the Raiders in free agency, and the Raiders traded him to Indianapolis. So since. When did Paris Campbell go down with injury? I think that was 2020. That was 2020 with Phillip Rivers. Since 2020, he's been on 4 different teams just in the past 2 years. And 5 if you count Jacksonville that year when he got traded. I think he's just done going from team to team. He wants to be somewhere that he can stick. And he's, like you said, he's doing it off the field.
And he's trying to plant those roots, those seeds early. I mean, he's showing he wants to be a part of the team, not just a guy who comes and gets his sacks and calls it a year.
Oh yeah. He's been helping the community. He's been constantly interacting with fans on Twitter. And then when he's there on the practice field, he's been dominant. And it's not like and I don't want this to slight Matt Pryor either, because honestly, Matt Pryor, I watched a lot of Matt Pryor while I was there on Sunday. He looks solid. And Bernard Raymond is nowhere close to taking Matt Pryor's spot at left tackle, which
every time Raymond gets brought up, every time Raymond gets up, everybody, man, what a story. every single time somebody says his name in the media. Oh, what a story.
Oh, just wait for my rookie files piece.
I know. Well, then we can hear about the whole thing. Not right now.
But yeah, not a slight to Matt Pryor, because I think this is helping Matt Pryor going up against an edge rusher like Unique Ngakoue every single day. As Tim Milliken said, a great start in the community would be to pay for someone's broken AC unit.
Oh, I agree, Tim. That would be a nice thing to do. That would be a nice, warm, neighborly thing to do.
Tim Milliken with the heat here on a Colts podcast today. Funny. But yeah, he's going up against a guy of Ngakoue's ability is going to help Matt Pryor when he goes up against guys of lesser talent. And he's just trial by fire every single day in practice. Iron sharpens iron, whatever cliche you want to call it. Unique Ngakoue is helping this team in a lot of different ways. And if he performs like this during the regular season, Indianapolis and Chris Ballard are not going to have any problem signing him to a long-term extension.
All right. And last thing before we move on to an injury update, Matt mentions JoJo and Ifedi Ofenigbo. I gotta cut that guy. We gotta cut. I can't have him and Odang, bro.
You don't want to cut him because he's been showing out. He's listed on the depth chart, which we'll talk about a little bit. He's like a third string defensive end, but every time he comes in with the second team, he's creating pressure along the defensive line. So he's been a pleasant surprise. I'm sure you'll see plenty of him on Saturday against Buffalo. But Jojo Doman, an undrafted rookie free agent, has I think out of all the undrafted rookies, has the best chance to make the team. Doman has been in there running with the second team, playing the Mike linebacker spot. Yeah. And what's something that stood out to me is that EJ Speed, guy has been here. This is his fourth year now with the Colts. EJ Speed is running with the twos. Jojo Doman is running with the twos. Jojo Doman has been with this team for 4 months. He's the one that's calling out the plays on defense. He's the one that's getting everybody set and making sure everybody's lined up properly. Not EJ Speed, who's been here for almost 4 years. That speaks volumes, I think, to not only his play and how he's been practicing, but the trust that he's already earned from Gus Bradley and from this defense, or from this defensive staff, to handle all of that. So, yeah, Doman's been fantastic. I think he's going to get a lot of run on Saturday, and he's going to impress a lot of people.
All right, let's talk about the Darius Shaquille Leonard injury. All of a sudden, Mr. Jake releases something, writes an article about something about could go into the season, this injury for Darius Leonard. Frank Reich says he's optimistic and blah, blah, blah about him playing week 1. I am no longer optimistic about Darius Leonard playing week 1. Oh, and he even said he's putting in extra work in rehab, trying to get ready. Hello? If I can see it, why can't they? I'm no special guy. If I can see that he needs to do what the trainers think he needs to do and not push it more, why can't they?
So here's the update with Shaquille Leonard. So yes, Frank Reich did say that he's hopeful and optimistic. They also said they're not going to push him. And when you see Shaquille
himself, you got to keep him from pushing himself.
When you see Shaquille Leonard out there at practice, he doesn't have a limp. He's jogging up and down the field. It's not so much that he's in pain anymore. There's no pain associated with this injury right now. It's more trying to get the strength back into his lower back into the calf and his lower leg, where this functioning issue that was happening last year, making sure it gets strengthened back up. Because as of right now, from what I've been hearing, there is no pain with Darius Leonard, but it's more of making sure it gets strength, the core muscles from the back, from the lower back injury down to the calf into the ankle gets strengthened back up, so things don't get tweaked in the future and then you have to go back to square one. So they're still optimistic that he's going to play for week 1, they hope that he's going to be available for week 1, but they're also planning for him not to be available week 1. So at this point, with my best educated guess, I would say it's about 50-50 that Shaquille Leonard is out there week 1 in Houston. Do they necessarily need him to be out there week 1 against Houston? Probably
Hopefully
not.
not.
I think the Colts could take care of Houston without Leonard. But at the same time, you still want this defense to be at full strength. So they're going to be smart about it because they know how important Leonard is to this defense. But at the same time, yeah, you do have to be smart with his recovery and not overdo it so it does end up causing a setback.
All right, let's move on to some position competitions. Andrew, an update on the tight end spot. Granson, we threw Ogletree in there now, and Jelani Woods. Are we still sitting at what we thought originally, Granson, Woods, Ogletree, but it's still really really tight space? Or where are we sitting now after another week?
So Granson did have another good week, and kudos to him. He has stepped. He had maybe a drop or two, which again needs to get cleaned up. But Frank Reich spoke highly about what Kylan Granson is doing. Kylan Granson, I think, right now is still the number two. And probably not getting. He might be getting pushed a little bit, but as of right now, still not in jeopardy of losing his job. Ogletree, no longer is it close between Ogletree and Woods. Ogletree is the third tight end in this offense. And I think it's by a good margin because, like I said, Ogletree is making play after play after play every single day. And he's getting, as the weeks have gone on, he's been getting more and more run with the number one offense. Right now, Jelani Woods is strictly with the number two offense. He has had some drop issues as well. And I don't think as of right now it's even close between Ogletree and Woods. So I would say Granson
after the first week update, if you went back and listened to that, now listen to this, shocker.
Ogletree, that's what I'm saying. He's been on a tear. And I tweeted this today. The Colts have had training camp stars over the past couple years. I mean, you remember Deron Carter. Do you remember Deion Kane? Drew Ogletree is reaching that level of training camp star.
Yeah.
So, but what he's got to do now is when the games start to count, prove it on the field. You can't just have a huge training camp and then become
preseason.
Mike Strawn.
Prove it out there even.
Right. Even Mike Strawn last year. You can't have a great training camp and then once the regular season comes around, completely disappear. It's a completely different ball game, and he's got to keep this up to really secure a full-time role on this offense.
Yeah, I that's a surprise. And it's almost frustrating because Woods was drafted so much higher. You know what I mean? We just maybe snag something else up with that pick and still got an Ogletree later, right? But we'll see what happens when
it's still very it's still very, very early in these guys' careers. So they still have a lot of faith in Jelani Woods and think his potential is sky high. He's just getting off to a much slower start than Drew Ogletree is.
Excuse me. Then left tackle. I get up at 5:30 a.m. Get off my back. Left tackle still Pryor over Raymond. Which isn't to say, Raymond's not getting cut by any means. No. You know what I mean? But Pryor has been getting some praises sung about him by his teammates on the offensive line as well. And honestly, Ryan Kelly was pretty blunt and honest. He said, we weren't as a team pushing each other as hard as we have in the past because we didn't all know each other quite as well as we have in the past. But Matt fits in really well, and he puts in work. And now that he can just focus on one position, he sees that he's really progressed.
Quentin Nelson had some high words and high praise for Matt Pryor today as well.
Is that today?
He talked about how well they get along, and not only on the field, but off the field. They become real close. So yeah, I would say at this point, it's probably 90%, 10%. Matt Pryor starts week 1 at left tackle. He's taken every single snap with the first team offense at left tackle. And like I said before, going up against Yannick Ngakoue, while Ngakoue has flashed, Pryor has held his own.
And then Rodgers and Faison. I think Isaiah Rodgers was making some plays that day that you were out at camp, Andrew. Has he gained a little ground in this little competition with Brandon Faison?
He might, but Faison's still the guy out there at the number 2 spot on the outside. Faison really hasn't done, and I keep saying this, Faison hasn't done anything to relinquish that spot. He's been solid in coverage. He's been solid in run support. Yeah, Isaiah Rodgers makes some plays on the ball, and I definitely think his ball skills are a little bit better than Faison, but Faison, he's a solid cornerback, and I think we're going to see these preseason games are going to be a big tell who performs better. But so far, it doesn't look like Rodgers is pushing Faison too much to crack that lineup.
And I think we're still on in strong safety. McLeod and Cross still pretty heavy on Cross.
Yeah, I would say so. I said last week how McLeod was taking some first team reps away from Cross. It's kind of switched back the other way. Cross has been pretty much the number 1 strong safety out there with the 1s. McLeod has migrated back to focusing mostly with the 2s.
All right, let's move it along to a little preseason game preview. Colts versus Bills Saturday at 4 on NFL Network.
Absolutely. Do you got the line?
What's up?
You got the
line. No, I don't have the line. I can find it while we talk. But Andrew, we're going to talk about how much the starters are going to play. And surprisingly enough, Frank actually makes it sound like the starters are, a good chunk of starters are going to be playing a full quarter or so in this very first preseason game. Now, there are fewer preseason games than normal, aside from the last 2 years. Whatever. But in general, they cut down on preseason games. So Matt Ryan, a guy that says he likes to get some snaps out there. The media, I mean, every single person that comes up, do you like to get preseason snaps? And whatever. Hilarious. Chap tried to not ask about Jonathan Taylor specifically, but even Frank Reich went, maybe that a running back that you may be talking about probably not going to play any preseason.
Man, shout out to Kevin Bowen. Love Kevin. Great guy. Got to talk to him quite a bit when I was down there in Westfield. He's got more confidence and more balls than I do. Goes and asks Quentin Nelson, do you want to play in the preseason? Big old 6'5", 300+ pound Quentin Nelson looks him right in the eye and goes, "What kind of question is that? Of course I want to play." I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, the starters are going to play probably a quarter.
But not all on my Quentin Nelson media availability clips here. I haven't gotten to watch it yet.
But I mean, Matt Ryan's probably going to play a quarter. Jonathan Taylor probably isn't going to play at all. There's going to be some guys that don't play. I mean, Stephon Gilmore might not play. DeForest Buckner might not play. Some of the older veterans probably aren't going to play. Maybe I'm not sure Pittman gets out there. We'll see, because if Pittman wants to work with Matt Ryan, but it's good to get these guys some live action. I'm not of the proponent that you have to sit everybody all preseason. No. I mean, going back to the Peyton Manning days with the Colts, and I know different era, things like that, but Peyton Manning would play maybe a couple series in the first one, play a quarter in the second, half in the third, and then wouldn't play at all in the fourth. And those Colts teams always got off to fast starts. I think the main thing, and why there's a difference this year, with how the Colts are addressing things in the preseason and as far as playing time for the starters, is number one, they don't want to get off to a slow start. They're over it. That's why the intensity has been ramped up in these practices. That's why practice was changed from mid-morning to now starting at noon and going through 1, kind of when they're going to be playing a lot of these games. Yeah. And they want to be ready for week 1 in Houston. They want to be ready to go when the season starts so they don't have to dig themselves out of a hole. So that's probably partially why. Another thing is that could be playing a role into it is the schedule. Think about the schedule. The Colts have 3 division games in the first four games of the year.
Right.
They can't start out slow, because not only would you dig yourself a hole, you dig yourself a hole in divisional games. So that they just can't do that. And I think the Colts are going to be smart with it. Jonathan Taylor probably isn't going to see a snap in the preseason. He probably shouldn't.
Right. Don't need to. He's a guy that just does not need to. He's in shape. He gets hit enough in practice. That's enough.
Exactly.
Colts Andrew are minus 120 money line. Bills an even 100. Over under is at 35.5, and the Colts are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, because I know Josh Allen's not
Matt
playing.
mentions that we were actually plus 3.5 before Reich announced that starters are going to be playing some football.
Yeah, because I know Josh Allen's not playing. Stephon Diggs, my guess would be he's not playing. So they'll probably be going up against a lot of second team guys on offense. So if the Colts do play a lot of their starters on defense, that could definitely go towards it. But yeah, I'm not worried. Jonathan Taylor doesn't have to play. I'm not worried about Matt Ryan getting injured in the preseason. I mean, like I said, the guy's missed 3 games in his 14-year career. I'm not knock on wood. I'm not too worried about those guys, and you might as well try it and change it up. See if it helps this
Peyton
team.
Manning
get
didn't
off
miss
to
any
faster
games
start.
until he missed a whole season.
Yeah, but that was from a neck injury that happened during a regular season game, not a preseason game.
Yeah. All right. Players to watch on Saturday, Andrew, rookies, and maybe some second-year guys that you're really interested in. Matt Ryan, obviously, you're going to be curious, but I mean, I don't think anything that he does in a preseason game is going to be very telling of necessarily of how he's going to perform in the season, especially if the Bills aren't playing any of their starters. So it's
you're not going to learn much from what you see from Matt Ryan. It's going to be very vanilla offense. But yeah, the guys that are in position battles like Rodgers and Faison, the tight end group, Granson, Ogletree, Woods, those are the guys that you're probably going to be watching. How Nick Cross plays. Maybe some of the guys coming back from injury, Paris Campbell and Julian Blackman, they'll be in there for a little bit. But those are the things you're going to watch. Like I'm dropping a piece on who I will be watching specifically on Saturday. But yeah, the final score does not matter.
You should release that Friday.
Tomorrow is Friday.
You should release that tomorrow.
I still have to write it, so it will be released tomorrow morning. But yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Stats Matt says JoJo, Banagoo, Brooks, Cross, Weatherford, Speed, because of Leonard.
JoJo Doman is a guy that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on. Ben Banagoo, Curtis Brooks, yeah, all good picks.
All right. Let's move it along to other Colts news, Andrew. Injury designations, Shaquille Leonard, linebacker is on the PUP still, wide receiver Mike Strawn, PUP. Nothing new there, hasn't changed. Colts released first unofficial depth chart. And the very first thing I went to look at, Andrew, for me, was the wide receivers. You stand by the fact that Paris Campbell is wide receiver number 2, but if they're in a 3 wide receiver set, Alec Pierce will be a guy out wide, while it appears Paris Campbell will spend more time in the slot.
Correct. So every 2 wide receiver set that they've been running so far in camp, it's been Michael Pittman Jr. and Paris Campbell. Then as soon as they go to 3 wide receivers and Alec Pierce comes in, Alec Pierce goes out wide, and then Paris Campbell goes into the slot. So that's why I saw a lot of people saying Alec Pierce is wide receiver 2, but when you're there at practice, these are the type of things that you can see. So when they do 2 wide receivers, it's going to be Paris Campbell in there, at least for now, and then Alec Pierce will come in when they go out to 3.
All right. Anything else on the unofficial roster depth chart?
Yeah, so it does show Drew Ogletree as the
cuts start.
The cuts start Tuesday. 5 guys get cut on Tuesday, but it does show Drew Ogletree as tight end 3. It shows something that kind of surprised me is Dayo Odangbo listed as a 3rd string defensive end behind Ben Banagoo. So I mean, Odangbo has been playing a lot with the 2s and moving all up and down the defensive line. So I don't know if that necessarily really means anything, but it is something to monitor as he's the number 3 Leo there on the defensive end. And then the linebacker spots. I think this is interesting too. Shaquille Leonard has been the Colts' will linebacker as Stats Matt gets to it. So Shaquille Leonard has been the Colts' will linebacker for the past 4 seasons under Matt Eberflus. Now, Bobby Okereke is at the will, and Shaquille Leonard is placed as the starter at the Mike linebacker. So the will linebacker in Gus Bradley's scheme is more of the coverage linebacker. So they're using
Yeah.
Bobby Okereke for his speed, athletic ability, and his coverage ability most of all. He's going to be the guy that's tasked with covering linebackers mostly, or being that coverage linebacker. The Mike linebacker in Gus Bradley's scheme really takes point on stopping the run, making sure all the run gaps are filled, filling those gaps, making sure he knows where the play is going. And I think that's something that Darius Leonard or Shaquille Leonard, third time I've done that this episode, will really exceed at because of his instincts, because of
respect for the man, Andrew.
Because of how he is against the run. I think that's a perfect fit for Shaquille. And he has kind of struggled a little bit in coverage in the past. So put your best coverage linebacker in Okereke at the will.
I agree with that.
Your best run linebacker in Leonard at the Mike. I think it'll make a big difference.
I really agree in saying that he struggles in coverage, because if he's had one weak thing, aside from, when he manages to pick a ball off, just jumping up out of nowhere, in regards to pure coverage, not great.
I guess one more thing, Nick Cross is the starting strong safety like we've been talking about.
Yep. All right, and some news around the league. Andrew, looking forward to the game this Saturday. Hopefully I actually get to watch some of it.
Gonna be a fun one.
I'm going to look for suits. Yeah, well.
Hey, do you have NFL Plus yet?
No, I do not.
Hey,
I pay for NFL Network through DirecTV, so I can just watch on the NFL app. If it wants to work.
Just have the app open while you're looking for suits.
We're going to get one of my little my usher, Liam. We're going to get him a suit. So I may be busy.
Say, hey Liam, gotta watch
wedding stuff.
But go get your suit, brother.
All right. News around the league. The Bears linebacker Roquan Smith has requested a trade. Not a guy the Colts are going to be interested in, but certainly a large name to be asking for that.
Very good linebacker. And one of the reasons he requested a trade is because he wants to be making more than Shaquille Leonard makes, be the highest paid linebacker in the game. Bears aren't willing to put that out there and aren't ready to match that. And so he feels like he's been disrespected. I think part of it is he doesn't have an agent, so he's dealing with him directly. That could definitely cause a rift. So we'll see what happens. He hasn't been practicing there with the Bears, so Eberflus has some. It's not going too well in Chicago right now for old Matt Eberflus.
Tim is killing me in the chat. This is the fourth or fifth nickname he just keeps throwing out there for Shaquille. And I can't stop. I was laughing about it earlier and I just let it go, but now he's staying consistent with it. It's like the goats and Thor. Wasn't funny anymore, and then right away they stay committed. Hilarious again. Very funny. This is hilarious. Ravens and kicker Justin Tucker agree to a 4-year, $24 million extension with $17.5 million guaranteed. Isn't that guy old yet?
I think Justin Tucker's still got a ways to go, especially if he kicks for as long as Vinny kicked. I mean,
oh my God.
He's obviously the highest paid kicker in the league, and he should be. He's the best kicker in the game.
I think Harrison Butker's right there.
Yeah, I'd take Tucker over Butker. Tucker? Bucker?
Hardly know her. Jets offensive tackle Mekhi Becton fractured his kneecap in practice and is out for the season. Yikes, bikes.
Number 11 overall pick a couple years ago, and man, he hasn't produced. He really hasn't, just because he's been injured a lot. So I think he can't. There's been questions about how dedicated he is to the game too. It's, man, not looking good for Becton. I don't know if he's going to get that 5th-year option, and he's a huge physical presence. I mean, kid's just oozing with talent.
And the Jets sign offensive tackle Dwayne Brown to a 2-year, $22 million deal. Is he any good? Must be okay.
I mean, longtime tackle of the Seattle Seahawks, former All-Pro, like a 5 or 6-time Pro Bowler. He's like 37 or 38. He's getting up there in age, but I mean, he can still play at a high level. He'll obviously slot in to Becton's spot and I think play right tackle there for the Jets.
Patriots running back James White has announced his retirement. Good for him. He's the guy that always has a week in fantasy football. You go, shit, I better go pick up James White. You pick up James White, you start him for 3 weeks, doesn't touch the football. Then you say, fuck James White. Explicit. And then, lo and behold, he busts off another 20-point game in fantasy. Absolute master of pissing fantasy owners off for years. Congrats to him.
Dynamic running back. James White in the league for 8 seasons with the Patriots, won 3 Super Bowls. I mean, not a bad career. Not a bad career for that
He's
guy.
the guy that catches 10 for 140 in the Super Bowl. That's
not wrong. Not wrong.
That's fair too. Andrew, one of my favorite things of the year.
One of my favorite things of the year.
Didn't used to be.
Andrew
loves Hard Knocks.
All in on
Hard Knocks. Somebody said, like, thank you to Dan Campbell and Jamal Williams for saving Hard Knocks. Like, it's been trash for years. And I was like, no, it has not. And guess who said that? A fucking Lions reporter. Shocker. It has not been trash. It is absolutely thrilling every year, even for a team I hate. I mean, I hate the Cowboys, right? Almost as much as I hate the Patriots. And I enjoyed that. I love the behind the scenes stuff for any team. I love the storylines. Nothing super exciting has to happen, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy Hard Knocks. This season, off to a hell of a start. Dan Campbell is an absolute personality of the NFL.
Brandon, I don't care if you have 1 ass cheek and 3 toes. I'm going to beat your ass. Dan Campbell's exact words. That's how they started off this season of Hard Knocks. So when the head coach is giving a speech like that in front of the entire team before camp kicks off, you know that kneecaps are in trouble. Dan Campbell's out there doing up and downs, 30 or 40 of them with the defense.
Wild. After he thought he broke his wrist.
Yeah, after he thought he broke his wrist, he's doing up and downs. I maybe could have done 10, 15.
Can you imagine Dan Campbell and Frank Reich working together? Just, man, I hope they show an interaction between those two, and Dan Campbell says something off the walls, and Frank Reich just looks at him like, okay, man.
Because Frank Reich's so mellow.
He doesn't cuss.
Such a reserved guy. I mean, he gets after guys, but Frank Reich used to be a minister. And then here comes Dan Campbell, who wants to,
with the fattest dip I've ever seen in his mouth, doing 40 up downs. 40.
Not even, he doesn't even pack a horseshoe. The dude just packs a boulder in his left cheek there and goes to work. But yeah, that definitely stood out to me. And then I think we got to talk about the Deuce Staley and Aaron Glenn trash talk that's happening during the offense versus defensive period.
That was so fun. That was so hilarious. Fun. I mean, they were about to pad up and go at each other. I mean, the competitiveness between the coaches. I'll tell you what, I bet there's not been a football team coached like this in 15 years. Maybe since Bill Cowher's around. I mean, I'm not shitting you. There's no way. These guys are screaming at dudes and just cussing up a storm, and I love it. That's blue collar football,
getting after one another, and it's not even in a malicious way. It's just because they care about each other. They want to get better.
And Matt brings up, sorry, go ahead. You took a pause.
Matt says exactly what I was going to say. Is it's very unique to have a coaching staff that's filled with so many former players.
Yeah.
I think there was like 5 or 6 of these coaches on this team. I mean, including Dan Campbell, the head coach that played in the NFL.
And the wide receiver coach that went to that shitty school from Indiana.
Antoine Randall.
Yeah. I know his name. I know his name. I just wanted to make it dig at IU.
Yeah, of course you did.
And of course they had to show a stupid touchdown pass against the Seahawks in that Super Bowl. I was so pissed. He's probably the only guy on that staff that's, aside from, no, Jared Goff didn't throw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, did he? He's the only guy on the staff that threw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. He's a wide receiver.
Yeah, because quarterback coach Mark Brunell didn't make the Super Bowl as with the Jaguars, made it the AFC Championship game. But this season of Hard Knocks, just with this group. And then I think the last highlight I want to talk about is Aiden Hutchinson singing in front of the whole group and just getting the whole entire team fired up.
It was great.
It was great. And I don't know if you caught this, but if you rewatch it, some guy in the second row while Aiden Hutchinson is singing and everyone's getting fired up, he rips off his shirt and he tosses it in the front row. And someone in the front row who's jamming out, no look, snags it and starts waving the guy's shirt around. It was the most wild thing I've ever seen. I had to watch it like 4 or 5 times. You have to go back and watch it after the episode.
All right. And then Stats Matt, I did want to bring this up at the ending of the episode when Dan Campbell makes a D's nuts joke. Just hilarious. So I listened to Pat McAfee show from this morning, and they bring up when they're talking about Hard Knocks, they're talking NFL films. We're talking a lot about Pat today. It's because I've been listening to the show again. But anyway, they talk about how basically they feel like nobody knew the Colts in season Hard Knocks was going on. So the ratings must not have been great. You know, it's still good enough to make money, but not great like they thought it would be. So they're making sure to advertise this Arizona Cardinals in season Hard Knocks. They made the announcement at the very, very end of this last episode. And which I think is a great idea. Make sure people know. But also, why would you use the suspended PED user in your first ad for the in-season Hard Knocks? That I do not understand.
Kyler Murray's too busy watching the 4 hours of film that he's required to watch every week.
They did say they should just put a camera in a room with Kyler Murray watching film.
just wait till Call of Duty comes out. You won't see Kyler Murray on an episode again. Too busy playing COD.
Oh, that's awesome. By the way, not many people have done what I've done, come out and been a first-round draft pick in the NFL, first-round draft pick in the MLB. So before you guys start talking shit about me, remember, ain't nobody ever fucking done that.
Congratulations, you're an athlete. Now go win something.
Yeah, no shit. All right. Anything else? I feel like I wanted to talk about something I forget. Oh, Antonio Brown, by the way. Can we talk? Did you see that today? His biggest regret was that he never got to watch himself live.
I really don't want to talk about Antonio Brown ever again.
What a piece of shit.
What a waste of talent.
I know. It's all Vontaze Burfict's fault.
I guess so.
Late
blame it on Perfect.
Yep. All right. This is the last time you're going to be told, folks. If you want a chance to win the tickets to the Colts preseason game against the Lions next weekend, go follow a Colts podcast at Andrew Moore NFL and at BM Moses 9 on Twitter. Like a Colts podcast on Facebook, and obviously subscribe to a Colts podcast on YouTube. Bonus points, forgot to mention bonus points if you screenshot a review you have left on the Apple Podcast or Spotify platform to get an extra ticket for the raffle.
People have been sending those to me. So I've got a few that have got a second entry. I've been keeping the list updated. So we'll announce the winner on the 16th. Possibly parking.
Possibly you.
We'll see.
Possibly you. Investors. Possibly you. Name the movie, Andrew.
I don't.
Anybody
recall.
name it? Step Brothers. When they're doing, they're trying to pitch their boat thing.
Oh yeah.
Enterprise worldwide, wide. Boats and hose. Go Colts.
Go Colts.
Let this moment become a cherished memory. And then remember, a legacy is only worthwhile when there is a future to fuel. God bless you, and God bless football.